This is the new UK headquarters for Star Citizen developer CIG. The building will eventually house 1,000 staff all working on space games. So, that really begs the question, just how many people does it take to make a space game? CIG's goal over the next few years is to hit a gigantic 1,700 staff worldwide. That's a huge number for a studio by any count and any reckoning, especially for one that has never released a full game. With a figure like that then, it's natural for people to wonder just what are CIG working on. It also raises another question: how does that staffing level stack up against the other space games out there? Unsurprisingly, it doesn't compare too favourably, but we'll get to that further into the video. Meanwhile, I'm fully aware that some people are not going to like the idea of comparing the space games in this manner. Well, that's fine. Ultimately, my intent for this video isn't so much to compare the games themselves, but rather to see what each well-known space game achieved with its respective staffing numbers. No Man's Sky is arguably the most well-known space game of the current generation. Sure, it doesn't have the pedigree of Elite or the cinematic history of Wing Commander. However, it's likely that virtually every console and PC gamer on the planet has at least heard of No Man's Sky and is also aware of its history. Now, the game comes from a UK studio, Hello Games. It was first revealed way back in 2014 and released to the world in 2016. Since then, it has grown at a seriously impressive pace, and now includes spaceships, freighters, capital-class vessels, mechs, ground vehicles, base building, underwater base building, the ability to run and manage your own town, as well as owning and riding animals, not to mention the recent addition of sandworms. Oh, and that's on top of the usual space activities such as planetary landings and space stations. This all takes place in a universe of quintillions of star systems. No Man's Sky is clearly one of the most comprehensive space games ever made then. But how many people did it take to make all of this? Well, at release, No Man's Sky had around 15 developers working on it, and as of September 2020, Hello Games had 26 staff, with 23 of them split between No Man's Sky and other projects. That's a seriously impressive achievement, isn't it? The X series at this point is a long-standing space game. It kept the genre alive throughout the early 2000s drought of space games and is undoubtedly an important title in the space gaming genre. Now, the series has a dedicated hardcore audience that stuck through it even through the troubled development of X Rebirth. The current title, X4 Foundations, had a bit of a rocky release. However, the devs have worked very hard on it, releasing update after update. There's also been a number of expansions that have added significant content. The game, of course, features a ton of different flyable spaceships, all of which the player can walk around. In fact, you can walk anywhere in the game. The real foundation of the X games, though, is empire building and trading, and this is where the game really shines. Whilst there's no multiplayer here, to be honest, the game really feels like it needs it. Developer Egosoft are a company that is around 20 individuals strong. They've built a compelling game with numerous compelling updates. EVE Online is the granddaddy of online space games. Launching back in 2003, it was more or less an instant success. Over the decades, it has grown in scope and content. Impressively, the game takes place on a single server or shard and is capable of housing many tens of thousands of players simultaneously. You'll no doubt have heard of the numerous epic space battles taking place with thousands of players at once. The game's galaxy is pretty large, with a few thousand star systems. The true star of EVE, though, is its sandbox nature, the fact that players truly control the galaxy and dictate its future. They control the economy, manufacturing, and in many cases even space itself. In terms of development, at this point EVE Online has received well over 20 expansions, and there's no end in sight. As of 2020, developers CCP had around 300 staff. It's not clear how the staff are distributed among the various projects and how many work directly on EVE, but it's obvious that it can't be more than 300. That said, there is some rather interesting information out there, although it's perhaps a little bit out of date as it dates back to 2010. Back then, an official EVE Online dev blog confirmed that just 54 developers worked on EVE Online, although at another point there was said that 300 developers worked on the expansion Apotheca. I think it's reasonable to put down then that between 54 and 300 developers work on EVE at any one time, depending on the circumstances and the situation. Yes, a lot of guesswork going in there. It's a wide range of numbers, but they are numbers that have been confirmed by CCP in the past. Elite is by far the oldest space series on this list. Started in 1984 with the genre-defining Elite, the latest version of the series, Elite Dangerous, launched in 2014. The game features a full one-to-one scale representation of the Milky Way galaxy, which is easily the game's best asset. Here, players are free to pursue their own path and can explore, trade or fight, depending on their tastes. 2015 saw the release of Horizon's expansion, allowing players to land and drive on planets. The following years saw a number of other updates that added engineering, ship-launched fighters, encounters with alien Thargoids, and eventually player-owned superships in the form of fleet carriers. The latest expansion, Elder Sea, launched in 2021 and arrived with numerous problems that developers Frontier are currently ironing out. Many of the issues have now been fixed, but quite a few remain. Odyssey allows players to exit their ship and walk around on foot, both inside of space stations as well as on planetary surfaces. The update has a huge focus on FPS combat and, for the most part, ignores the other aspects of the genre, such as trading and exploring. Whichever way you cut it, Elite is a vast game. It's unknown exactly how many people work on the game, but in 2018, Frontier confirmed that the team size for Elite was around 100 people. As of today, the exact number is a complete mystery. Star Citizen is by far the largest space game project around. Some would probably argue it's also the largest game project, full stop. Currently, CIG have around 700 people working on the project across the entire planet. That's an impressive number and is far higher than any other space game out there. So, what does 700 people get you? Well, it gets you a tech demo. That then brings us to an end of this video. Nah, just joking with you. Seriously, Star Citizen takes a lot of flack for its development. A lot of that is deserved, and a lot of it is not. Either way, the game's development cycle has to be discussed because it's the only space game on this list that hasn't been fully released. Sure, some people out there will argue that it's playable, and that's true. But it's still an alpha, and it's a game that hasn't been fully released. Facts are facts. Another fact is that Star Citizen is definitely the most ambitious space game ever planned. There's no way to deny that. The real question is whether CIG can ever achieve the lofty goals. Those goals, in short, are to create a full life simulation set in space, where a player can live out their dreams of being a spaceship pilot, explorer, combat veteran, or whatever else they want. We all know at this point that the game is funded through pledges and ship sales, often to the tune of a very high price. To be fair, the ships are very impressive, although it should be stated that not all the ships that have been sold currently exist in the game. Star Citizen then is a complex project to summarize. The main point is that right now you can pay to access the alpha and, well, have an experience of the game yourself. So CIG is currently around 700 people strong. The new offices opening in Manchester will eventually hold 1,000 people. That will likely make it the largest development studio in the UK. CIG have also stated that over the next few years they will grow their staffing levels to 1,700 people. The question then is just what are CIG working on, and what is their plan, and what is their roadmap? Well, that would be Star Citizen, Squadron 42, Theatres of War, and there's also some unconfirmed speculation that just maybe there will be a Squadron 42 version coming to consoles. And let's not forget that there will be further chapters of Squadron 42 in the future as well. Now, there's unfortunately no real way to know how those 1,700 staff will be distributed across all of these games. What is known, however, is that none of those games currently have any sign of a release date in sight. Now here, I'd like to take a moment to mention two of these smaller studios. Games of course come in a variety of sizes, all with different scopes. Size doesn't necessarily equate to quality. After all, there are a ton of smaller games out there that are of an extremely high quality. And when it comes to space games, there are a selection for that. Now there's far too many for me to mention all of them, but I did want to briefly mention two of them. Evocron Legacy is a space game that has a huge scope. Not only can you fly spaceships, but the game also has all the hallmark staples of the space game genre. Trade-in, exploration, combat, even base building and all the rest of it, all of that is here. The game is impressive to look at, it sounds very impressive, and has been developed by a single person. It's a game I keep meaning to look at for a dedicated video in the future, so maybe something we'll get to soon. Also being developed by a single person is the upcoming Falling Frontier. Now this isn't a space game in the sense of the others mentioned in this video, instead it's an RTS. Whilst strategy games don't really fit into this category, it does deserve a mention due to how impressive it looks and the entire scope of the game. For more details, do check out my other video on this game, it's one to watch out for sure. More details for all of these games can be found in the video description, and if you have any space games you'd like to recommend, do let me know below. Overall then, what's your thoughts on the various well-known space game projects? What are your thoughts on what each team has achieved with the various respective resources and developers numbers? Do you feel that any have performed above expectations, or perhaps even below expectations? Do let me know in the comment sections below, I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.